All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here with Byron Hempel, who's a PhD candidate, correct?
I actually graduated. I graduated, so I'm now a full-time lecturer.
Dr. Byron Hempel is joining
right.
us from University of Arizona. He's going to talk to you about educational spaces and your future learning. Did I get that right?
Education. Yeah,
future
right.
education. All right. Welcome,
well,
Byron.
Thanks, Jen. And if you want to see the formal title, this is it. If my presentation will start. So there we go. So yes, thank you, Jen, for that introduction. I'm Byron Hempel, and so this is going to be educational spaces for your future education. So let's get started. To start, I'm Byron Hempel, and as Jen just mentioned, and we just discussed, I am now a PhD lecturer in chemical and environmental engineering. So I'm very excited about that. I absolutely love rock climbing. It's one of my favorite things to do. If you're from Tucson, I know that we have people from all around Arizona here. You may have seen that there's fires, and so this is actually devastating some of our climbing areas. It's one of the major concerns that we have in the area. There's a lot of smoke going around, and this is definitely one of my major concerns in the future. But outside of climbing and what's happening in Tucson right now, I do have a girlfriend. Her name is Erin. She has a cat named Zeus. He is the king of the household. He is wonderful. And my younger brother just got married. So a lot of happy things and sad things and crazy things happening at these times. So a lot of things happen. So quick setup for today. I'll let you read that. So I don't want to lecture to you guys today. It's something that I despise myself. Even though I'm technically a lecturer, I really try not to do that as much as possible. And this. There's so much information that we could be telling you today, but it'd be overload, and there's no real reason for that. So we're going to keep everything as simple as possible today, so that then it's bite-sized, you can absorb it, and you can actually take something from the lecture today. So, a few quick polls. Let me go here and let's start this poll. I've told you all about myself, so I want to hear about you guys. Good, so far everyone's wanting to go to college to get more knowledge. Oh, guys, ASU's winning right now. Well, other colleges outside of Arizona too. All right, so I'm going to close this polling in about 10 seconds. So go ahead and vote if you haven't already. So, fantastic. Let me see. I think you all should see the results now. And so if you look, everyone here is looking to go to college. That is fantastic. It's a great way to continue education, have better prospects for your future. It's basically the stepping stone in America these days. As for the colleges you want to go to, I can see that Arizona, or ASU and UA are like really tied, so go you guys. I'm excited about that. I'm obviously from University of Arizona. For those going outside of Arizona, that's fantastic too. It's great to broaden your horizons, and it's a really good way to travel, get different experiences, and explore a new area. I would highly recommend that as well. All right, so to continue this, so let's go in the chat box now. So we've used polls, let's try the chat box. For those of you who want to go to college, which is everybody, thank you all. What are you all excited about? And I should be able to open the chat. Learning new things, cool. Late class starts. Oh, just hopefully you don't get all the 8 a.m.s, Ashlyn. Benjamin, I'm definitely with you. The freedom is amazing. Now, Tristan, I haven't been to frat parties, but apparently they're cool. Cameron, getting to pick classes and learn what I want to, that is fantastic. Studying on new subjects I like, great. Yeah, these are all great things to be excited about for college. I'll let you all put this in for maybe 5 or 10 more seconds. Bresley, that is awesome. Opportunities to contribute to the world, definitely. So, what types of clubs or extracurricular activities do you all want to join? Sporting events and internships by Noah, those are great too. Danielle, I hope you have a great voice. Choir is going to be fantastic for you. Emma, I actually walked past the Air Force ROTC on U of A's campus, and they have a really cool little exercise area outside of their building. So it's really fun to pass by. And all the people that I've talked to are fantastic there too. Kevin, doing the underwater robotics team, that sounds fantastic. And I hope you have a great experience with that. And Michael, just having fun of getting to get hands-on with just learning how to engineer, that's fantastic too. You don't always have to have a club or activity that you want to do. Awesome. So last little question before we move on. So just a general check-in, because a lot of people may not be asking this question to you. How has the transition to online teaching been? And you can be honest, you can be frank. Just try not to use profanity though, because this chat box is recorded.
And I do have a few messages coming my way in response. So in response to your prior question, someone's looking forward to having a choice of classes. And for extracurriculars, we've got golf and photography.
Well, there's so many different things. I didn't hear rock climbing from any of you guys. You should definitely consider rock climbing. It's one of my favorites. All right, so I'm seeing mixed things. Some people are going smooth. Some are finding it hard to procrastinate. Some people say it's all right, Cammy, your boyfriend's a rock climber too. That's fantastic. Tons of people actually like rock climbing. Great. And rock climbing can be an extracurricular in different places. All right, so thank you guys for your responses. That's it for this chat. We'll continue on in a little bit. So I'm here to talk about our educational spaces. And my experience is mostly at the University of Arizona. So I can't exactly speak for Northern Arizona University or Arizona State University, but this is pretty much our current educational spaces. Guess where the instructor goes? Right there on the podium in the front. So they're right here and they're preaching. They are giving their best lecture. They're just spitting knowledge at all the students that are just absorbed and listening on to every single word they say. And if you have actually been in lecture long term, this isn't really quite the case. It can both, and what's not depicted in this picture is the student asleep, or the student that's on their phone or on their laptop chatting in the back, or just doing homework for that class. So our future is going to be a little different for our classrooms. So we have these things called collaborative learning spaces. And this is a way because we're looking at this lecture model that's been used for thousands of years and said, hey, how can we make this better? So what we try to do is we're going to have groups of students working together. And we'll get into this later as we go through the next 40 minutes of this. But students working together is significantly better than students working alone. Engagement is better than just trying to passively sit there absorbing knowledge. So we continue to build these quote-unquote active learning spaces or collaborative learning classrooms, and you interact with the material. If you have the fortunate ability to join one of these, you'll find that you're answering multiple choice questions. You're basically doing the chat that we've been doing. You'll be answering polls. It's a really great way to change your learning environment entirely. So that's the space, but what about learning in general? So if we change our space up, great. That can help out so much. So what we want to do is think about the learning aspect. So you're a student, and what do students do? They study. So what we're going to talk about for the remaining of our time is looking at 3 different things: growth mindset, space retrieval practice, and community. So these are all 3 different topics that if you grasp onto them, I can almost guarantee, actually, I will guarantee that you'll be a better or stronger student in the future. So if you understand how people learn, you're going to learn how to succeed. It's better grades, better learning, everybody wins. So I want you guys to take out a sheet of paper. I'm assuming you all might have paper and pen on you. And we're going to answer each of the following. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And you're going to add true or false to each statement. And it's just off of your belief. So I'm going to give you guys about 1.5 minutes to read through these and answer true or false. If you have any questions, feel free to type those into the chat box as well. So one question is, what is very basic? So a person's intelligence is something very basic, meaning it's something that's that's like part of their identity. So you're basically born with a certain level of intelligence, would be one way to do that. Zoe, if you don't mind contacting Jennifer to help out with your technical issues, that'd be good. All right, so let's wrap this up in about 5 or 10 seconds. All right, so you have all of your trues or falses, and 1 through 5. So what you're going to do is you're going to give yourself 1 point for each true and 2 points for each false. All right, and I know math can be pretty hard. This is just addition. We got this. I believe in you guys. You can do it.
Excuse me, Brian, who was having technical issues? Do you remember?
That is Zoe Clyde.
Zoe, thank you.
Yep. All right, I'm going to assume everybody has added up the numbers correctly at this point. So, we went backwards. Hold on. Let's go here. And we are going to do another poll so everyone can see how everyone else did. Okay, so take about 5 or 10 seconds, maybe 20, input your score numbers here. Give you about 5 or 10 more seconds to input your scores. All right, thank you for inputting those. I'm going to share the results for you all. All right, this is great to see. It's absolutely fantastic. We actually see some freshmen that come into engineering classes, or just the university as a whole, that are more on this 1 to 3 or 4 to 6 range. So you guys, being the spectacular students that you are, scored really high on this. So what does it mean? That the higher your score, the higher your growth mindset. And so you guys are pretty much already embodying this. So I won't spend too much time in detail on this so we can talk about other things. So I'll let you read through the bullets here. I don't like reading bullets out loud. It's kind of boring. All right, and then on the flip side to the growth mindset is the fixed mindset. Fixed mindset. So what's crazy is you can have a growth mindset in one area and a fixed mindset in another. Also, notice the subtle coloring there where growth mindset is green and fixed is red. Green means go, red means stop. Just a little coordination there. All right, so growth mindset is great. If you change your mentality, it changes the outcome, usually, of whatever you're trying to do. So if you think, I can get smarter, usually learning is your goal, and effort will make you try harder. And then the more time you spend on it and working harder on it, usually you have higher achievement. This is pretty much for anything. And literally anything that you have in life follows this type of model. From piano to rock climbing, to math, to calculus in particular, to all these other topics. So, in the chat box, for what topic skills do you have a growth mindset? And Jen, is there a way to have this where everyone can see what they input instead of sending it just to me or you?
Oh, the results?
So in the chat, yeah.
Oh,
for
so that, are you
mean
the questions that they're asking in the chat?
Yes, so like in the chat box, I'm
Yeah.
asking students to put growth mindset.
Yeah, no, they can only message hosts.
Okay, well in that case, I'll just read out loud whatever you guys put.
Brian, quick interruption here. Could you please maybe stop sharing and then reshare? It looks like we have at least one person who has shared it come through.
Of course. All right, continue to put that in the chat box for those of you that are there. And let's hope that that worked out.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So we had math, science, drawing, piano, growth mindset, on improving my reaction time. That's right. I'm assuming that's gaming, trumpeting, school and dance. Great. Math, science, writing, dance and school, chemistry, school. I have a growth mindset in my math and science subjects. Mechanics, growth and knowledge, mechanical engineering. Great. Handwriting. Great. Okay, so on the flip side, for topic skills, do you have more of a fixed mindset? Like, what do you believe that you might be terrible at? English. Most engineers might say the same thing. Sports, essays, writing, seminars. There's so many people saying sports. Poetry, humanities. Yeah, this is pretty stereotypical. Everyone has their strengths. Everyone has maybe some things that they need to build on. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with having things that you're not as strong at. Painting, public speaking. Whoa, Danielle, you're not alone. A lot of people have some issues with public speaking. But you do get better at it the more you do it. Art, drawing. I need to reshare my screen really fast. Sorry about that, you guys. Okay, so changing your language around success and learning can also change your mindset. So if there's one thing that I'd like for you all to do after today, it's putting yet at the end of it. So if you say like, I'm not good at sports, you could say I'm not good at sports yet. See, but the yet is also dependent on how much energy, effort, time, etc. that you're going to spend on it. So you may not be good at sports now, but let's say it's something that you want to get better at. If you put time and energy into it, you're going to get better at it. It's pretty much, that's the way that nature works. So keep yet in your repertoire of tools. So I want to tell you a quick story. Alexa was a student here at the University of Arizona. She lacked confidence in math. So most of you guys are not lacking confidence in math, but for those of you who are, you're not alone. She would say things like, I'm not good at this, I can't do math, it's not my thing. So she selected psychology for a major. She loved science, but her mindset was rejecting math and it limited her choice of major. So because of this fear of math, she chose psychology, where she may have chosen a different major. She worked on changing her mindset and took additional math classes. And she did really well in those math classes after putting a lot of effort into it. She still loves her major, but now she enjoys math too. So the power of yet, kids, you can do it. So another chat box for you guys. Actually, this might be a poll. So which would require more preparation for you? Which one would you probably put more effort into? I'm going to launch the polling. I'm going to let you guys see the results. Oops. I'll put this off to the side. So we'll end this poll in about 10 seconds. So we have a question of what is an upper division course. So whenever you go to college, most of the time you'll take 100 or 200 level courses. And those are your lower division courses. And then your upper division courses will be like your 300 or 400 level courses. Upper division is usually for juniors and seniors. Great question, you guys. Great, so I'll show you all the results of our polling. Right now, learning for an upper division course, that is fantastic. I'm glad to see that most of you all are not just studying to get a grade. That is, of course, different philosophies in education. I prefer to try to view higher education as the love of learning and wanting to learn so many different topics. Teaching other classmates is also a really good motivator. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So thanks again for doing that poll. Let's move on. So the real question is why? Why do you think you chose what you did? Feel free to do a quick message in the chat box for why you chose the one that you did. And I'll read them out loud since you can't see them. I like helping people. Fantastic. Helping people is nice. It makes you feel good on the inside. I'm assuming you chose well enough to teach your classmates. Yeah, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, says if I'm going to put in the effort to learn, it might be as well useful for her. So yeah, definitely. Teaching is like double studying, absolutely. Converting information to others helps solidify it more for myself. Cami, you are 100% right, where if you are teaching others, you are learning better. And the best way to learn is actually to teach, which is a little motto that I have. All right, thank you all for your responses. We're gonna keep moving on. So mostly just to help reinforce the material, help out each other, and just generally be better prepared for the future. And it proves that you know it. So another quick story. Michael was another student at the University of Arizona. He did not do very well in his math classes. So he changed his habits. He started reading the chapter before class. He reviewed notes after class. He used practice problems, like those little problems that they have at the back of the book. And he got high B's on his next two exams. He did not do very well in his first few exams, but he did really well in his next two. He made the dean's list next semester. If you're not familiar with what the dean's list is, it's a very high accolade where if you get a certain GPA and you get above it, the dean says like, whoa, you're a great student, congratulations. And Michael became a peer advisor for the ASEMS program. That's the Arizona Science, Engineering, and Mathematics Scholars Program, and he was accepted into graduate school. So if you just change your study habits a little bit, it can be really fantastic for the future. A side note, as you're in high school, you may not need to study quite as much as you might in college. So all this is really trying to help prepare you for your future. So we have some specific strategies for active learning, and you can use them differently in different study sessions. So these are 5. There's tons of different ways to study. If you do come to U of A, we have this thing called the think tank. And you can also go to the academic skills workshop, and they'll help you practice these different strategies and really be a better student. I've actually made students go to this, like I forced them to go to this, and they're like, this is going to be dumb. But then they go and they're like, wow, that was actually a useful experience. So use your resources when you go to college. Anyway, we're going to talk about spaced retrieval practice. So, retrieving what you know. We're going to try it out. On that sheet of paper, you did true or false on. Write down the most important 3 concepts you've learned from camp so far. Top 3 takeaways. I'll give you about 30 seconds to do that. All right, so hopefully you have your 3 concepts down. Dun, dun, dun. So was this difficult for you? Was it? Yes, no, maybe, possibly so. Who knows? So I just want you to remember that the greater the struggle, the more likely you are to remember. So if you weren't using notes to look at past concepts, if you weren't thinking about or using some kind of written reference and you're just trying to like pull it out of your brain to remember, the greater you struggle, the so much better you'll remember it. We'll go into this a little bit more too. So do you ever review materials in this way after your classes? And just another thing to think about, if you were to take a cumulative final exam today in any of your past classes, how do you think you would do? So think back about like history or any of your other classes that you've taken. If you were to take a cumulative final right now, would you do well or would you not do well? Just things to consider. So doing a little bit of retrieval practice would be great. What is retrieval practice, you say? Well, let's look at retrieval first. Retrieval means pulling from your memory. It means you're digging in your brain to pull out that factor, that equation, or whatever you need. And so we're going to look at the space part too. But let's get into it. So there was a study done in 2011. It's, I'm going to butcher their names. It's by Karpicki and Bonishmit. Apologies if I mispronounced those. But they did a study. They were looking at all the different students. They were testing out spaced retrieval practice. So they had a baseline. Study once would be their background, so to speak. Then they recall once, meaning they try to retrieve information from a test. One time, just once, studied once before an exam. Studying, as it turns out, helps you learn. You know. All right. So what if you just study many more times? Or, let's answer this in the chat box, will you remember better, or will you remember better with many more repetitions? So what do you guys think? If you study once, just once, you do really well. Do you think that if you study many, 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 many more times right then and there, will that be better for your studying? We have yes, but with decreasing yields, better with repetition. No, no, you'll remember better if you see and hear the information more. Yes, most likely, not much, no. So we're getting answers kind of across the board here. If I believe if you use a repeated system, then yes, it will help. Okay, cool. These are all great answers. So, dun, 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 are you ready to see what the researchers found? Boom. So, if you keep studying over and over and over for a continuous amount of time, you see almost zero change in grade on the exam. But if you space it out, so you study once, wait maybe a day, study again, wait a day, study again, wait a day, study again, then you get significantly higher results. And that is spaced retrieval practice. So what does this mean for you? What do you guys think? Breaks are good. Yes, they definitely are, Connor. Don't cram, says Abney. I should stop studying for 6 hours a day before the exam. That is fantastic, Carolyn, and I hope you take that to heart. It is much better to space out studying periodically than do a large portion of studying all at once. Fantastic. Taking breaks are good. That is absolutely correct, Faith. And there's a lot more literature on this, and we can obviously talk more, or feel free to email me if you'd like more information on all of this type of information. And so, correct, a lot of you guys are right. Spreading out your study rather than just doing it all at once leads to much better recall. You're going to have it solidified in your brain. It's just a better way to train. So I just wanted to think about, how does this apply to your study habits? So think about how you study now, and think about how you might change that to do even better academically. If you get it down now, it will make your life so much easier in all of your future classes. Another thing to do is testing yourself versus studying. So this is the essence of space practice and space retrieval practice in particular. So this is a little study by Rodaiger and Karthiki. Same person, if you notice Karthiki, they're onto something. So this is the percentage of idea units recalled. That's on the y-axis. And then if you look at 5-minute delay versus 1-week delay. So they're testing people right after the fact, and they're going to wait a week and test them again. And so we have 3 different testing conditions. Students could either study, 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 meaning they just like read the material, or they could study, 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 test, meaning they test once really, and they could study, test, test, test. So if you notice, right after students do whatever studying they're doing, you see that the study, 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 study did really well on their units recall. That's why massed cramming practice can work really well the night before an exam. But if you look 1 week later from that same bar, their information went way down. So if you notice, you do really well short term, but in the long term, it's gone. It's out of your brain. Whereas if you look at the study, test, 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 then you have very little drop over time for the information there. And now extrapolate this across an entire semester. There you go. So testing, great. Space testing, even better. So quick story. This is Emily. She is another graduate at the University of Arizona. She normally was getting like all A's her junior and sophomore, or her freshman and sophomore year. She has a class her junior year, and she's like, crap, why is none of my studying work? She was looking at her study habits. She was mostly just looking over her notes and trying to memorize steps, which, you know, can work only so far for a lot of our engineering courses. So concept seems abstract, disconnected. She started using this thing called concept mapping, which shows how concepts are related to each other. If you want to learn more about it, feel free to ask me or send me an email, or ask Jen to send me an email, and I can give you more information on it. And it improved her long retention, and she popped right back up to being a top-tier student doing great. The plus side of doing all these different study strategies is you feel like you don't even need to study at all for the final. You just feel like, hey, I've got this material down, I've been working all along, and it's great. So, study, kids, it's good for you. So in the chat box, we're going to change gears a little bit. What are you able to remember the easiest throughout your day? So imagine that you're just like strolling along, walking through your day. You get home at night, and your mother goes, or father, or parental figure, goes, hey, what happened today? What are you going to say? Severin says, things I'm interested in. Ads. Ads have a great way of getting you, don't they? The most fun thing I did, that's fantastic. The climate was hot. The most abstract thing from the normal school routine, perfect. Most of the information I wrote down or had a large concentration on, Benjamin, great, that sounds like a scholarly answer. Things that are easy to memorize. Everything that went wrong that day, and the funniest stories. Embarrassing, interesting things, and normal or interesting, says one student. Whatever made me the most happy, says one student. So this is great. If you notice, all learning is social and emotional. I am making this huge claim now. Most people say, no, you've got to be calm, cool, and collected and bored and have nothing going on. But I will say, all the recent literature, a lot of studies are coming out showing that all learning is in fact social emotional. So those things that you remember throughout the day, I want you to talk about this. So in the thought box, for your most vivid memories, were you calm, cool, and collected, or did you have a strong emotional feeling? So we have one response, most positive and negative events. Strong emotional feeling. Fantastic. So we're seeing that if you have these emotional attachment to things, you remember them so much better. And that's the same for me. Some of my most vivid memories from my childhood, from every day, are the ones that are the most striking. And there is an evolutionary reason for this. We're not going to have the time to go into it, though. But you can imagine. So another aspect is learning is about collaborative social connections. So there's another thought process that all learning is social too, not just emotional. And so the more connections we have, the more we're able to relate it to each other, share experiences, share stories, the better for everyone involved. So, hey, now it's time to be social. We're going to have breakout groups. So feel free to discuss any of the following in your breakout groups. We'll do this for about 5 or 10 minutes. I'll pop in between each group and just chat with you all individually. What are some of your most cherished memories? I mean, those are always fun to talk about. How do you think you learned best? So as we were mentioning before, I think with Melissa, that being very tactful is important for some people's learning. Did you study all willy-nilly, or do you study with a plan? And for you all that are very proactive, because I know that some of you all are highly motivated engineers, discuss your ideas for the COVID-19 challenge. And you're going to be with people that aren't in your group, and that is fantastic. We're about collaboration here. Share some ideas, get some trips, get some tips, get some tricks, get some different ideas from everyone else. So let's do it. All right, so as we're all coming back together, it is now the end of my time here. So if I can end with anything, it is study smarter, not harder. So make sure you're putting that energy to good use. Don't just like try to mass cram. It doesn't really work as well. So, oh, and it's with a very beautiful, stereotypical like Walmart gift card type thing. So enjoy. And once again, this is basically learning to learn. And so that's me again. And that's it.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Thank you, Byron. And students, we will provide you with Byron's email if you want to ask him for any resources he mentioned or different strategies. So we will get that out to you all so you can have it.
Yeah. All right. At this time, we are going to take a bit of a break. I want to remind you about the help desk so you can offer questions that way. And then up next at 2 p.m. is Dr. Brett Siebold. He's going to give a presentation on an evidence-based pitch, so that's going to be really relevant to your presentations that you're turning in on Sunday. And then after that, the staff, myself, Josh, Jill, and whoever else is with us at that time are going to go over and make sure that everyone understands what the expectations are and talk about, I'm sure you'll have questions about what judging is like and what you need to turn in and how and when. So we're going to talk about that after Dr. Siebold's presentation. So we're going to take a quick break, be back here and ready to go for the next presentation at 2 p.m.
And I'll stay on for a few more minutes if you have any questions.
Perfect.
Or if you want to bribe me, because I'm going to be a judge on Monday.
Uh-oh.
Byron, if you want, you could put your email in the chat.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
That way. That's just an easy way right now.
So if they raise their hand, do we need to look for them to let them in the room or let them chat?
If they raise their hand, they're trying to speak, right?
Yeah, I see a couple. Looks like Kevin has a question.
Oh, they're clapping. Those are clapping.
Oh, I see. It's a waving hand, not a raising hand.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Byron, you were great. That is awesome. It's definitely, I could see just the whole Chi department and Dr. Blowers and everything that you guys are pioneering in that. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's really exciting.
Jill, just for your reference, if people raise their hand for a question, they'll actually go to the top of the participant list automatically. And so that way you can find them easier.
Okay. I just was scrolling and saw one and
Yeah,
thought,
no,
uh-oh, it didn't
it's-
pop up.
It's confusing at first.
So no one has any questions for Professor or Dr. Byron? Are you Dr. Byron now?
You got to call me Dr. Hempel now.
Dr. Hempel.
I won't accept anything else.
Okay, of
Go
course.
ahead, Sanu.
Thanks. So I have a couple. I guess I'll have two questions. So one of them is about my group's project, because our project we're trying to do like more on like the education side and like systems, like trying to apply systems engineering to it. So like, what are some ways that you see like through kind of like a hybrid system of education we can apply stuff like social and emotional learning and like collaborative? Because I know that social distancing is going to get in the way of like collaboration and stuff like that. So how can we still have those things as part of our education system? That's my first question. So. Oh, I can say my second question too, I guess. My second question is, I was just wondering, have you read? There's a book called Range by David Epstein, and it's a lot of the stuff like is similar to the stuff you talked about. I was just wondering if you've read that book or you've heard of it.
I have not read Range. I'm looking it up right now. Ooh, it's only $17 on Amazon. Why a generalist triumph in a specialized world. So yeah, keeping a broad sense of the world is great. And in terms of collaboration, you just need to get creative with all of it. It's going to, we are engineers, and you all are future engineers. So this exact problem that you're seeing right now is fantastic for you. It's going to say, hey, here's a problem. Here's your system boundaries, like here we are in school. And what are you going to do? And how are you going to promote it to continue learning and education? So whatever you come up with, I'm sure you guys will be great at it. And just be creative. You know, there's plenty of ways to try to collaborate. We're trying to do the best we can with Zoom. Our interactive live classrooms in person are so much more fun, of course. But you know, we're just given restraints, and you guys have great ideas, I'm sure, how to do that.
Thank you.
Ooh, keep in mind too that a lot of instructors and teachers, they're all old school, so learning these new technologies can be kind of tricky. So keep that in mind.
Is there anyone else that had a question that wants to raise their hand?
Jen, I just let Brent in, so we just need to make him a co-host.
Noah has a question.
I was so good and so descriptive that nobody has a question.
No, Noah does.
Go ahead,
ahead.
Noah.
What's your opinion on like studying in chunks?
It's great. So there's one thing called interleaving. And so if you study in chunks, then it's actually better. So like if you study in anywhere from like 30 to 45-minute chunks, that's way better than trying to do like a cram session for like 5 or 6 hours. So chunks are good. Get chunky with your learning.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Noah.
Okay, so do we need to wrap up for our next speaker?
Yes, Brent is on, and then the next speaker starts at 2.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Dr.
much.
Hempel.
Thank you so much, Byron.
Just call me Byron.
Got to get used to it.
I know. All right, see you guys. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your time.